So we're talking a supplier's perspective on procurement professionals. We've got 3 areas we're going to cover. We're going to have a look at a case study for a service tender, which I believe is one of the more difficult ones to run through. What I hate about tenders, and the real value of being a valuable customer. So look, we've got 30 minutes together and we'll get cracking. Probably know these guys, Foster's Group, iconic Australian brand. They're heroes in my book, especially the marketing department. I reckon they're absolutely brilliant because they've managed to convince everybody that we drink this crap. I mean, the last time I saw an Australian with a can of Foster's in their hand was Barry McKenzie in 1977, and he got paid to do it. But the guys at Foster's tell us they also have another brand, and you probably know this one as well, Corona. And apparently the Mexicans reckon they wouldn't be caught dead with this crap either. So, you know, what's all that about? Well, look, you know, I think we need to learn from this. If you've got a product that's flunking really badly in Australia, ring the boys up at Foster's because they've obviously worked out a way of getting it offshore and having everybody love it. But look, the guys at Foster's went out for tender. Well, no, before that, they're actually, better tell you a little bit about the organisation. It's not all about the blue can. They have over 100 brands. And they're on 5 continents, and certainly a very old history, I think, for Australia, 160 odd years, right through the whole range of alcohol, including cider. Apparently someone drinks that still, but anyway, there you go. The tender they went out for was fleet, substantial size fleet for Australia, 1,800 vehicles. Located right across Australia at bottling, manufacturing, distribution, and you know, down to the point of having tractors in vineyards. So quite a broad range fleet. And as you'd expect for a large manufacturer like that, very mature procurement process and quite a large team. The challenge they were faced with was this was an internally managed fleet. It always had been. And it was self-funded. I'm sure for any of you here today, if you've been challenged with trying to outsource something that's been internally run for a long time, especially in something like vehicles, which is so passionate, everybody's got an opinion, everyone's an expert when it comes to vehicles, they certainly had their range of challenges set out for them. Well, when we look at tenders, you might be a little bit surprised to hear that we actually don't sit in our office waiting all day for you guys to send us a tender. It's true, we don't. And when one just rolls up out of the blue, we tend to look at it and go, oh, that's interesting, why have we got this? What are these guys asking for? So what we do before we even look at a tender for you is we actually go for a bit of a checklist. And we want to have an idea, is this tender something we really want to go for? Because it costs us a lot of time and a lot of money to respond to one of your tenders. So we run our checklist. And the first item on our checklist is, do we have a relationship? Because that's very important to us. We don't like cold tenders. And the guys at Foster's had a very good strategy on this. Very, very long lead time, and you might be a bit shocked, 12-month lead time on their tender. But when you consider the number of challenges that they had to get through to actually get this tender out, it made really good sense. So they went out to the entire market, and they made it very clear to us that this was going to be a 12-month process, and that in this process they were going to talk to the entire industry and they were going to get some ideas about what could be done and couldn't be done. So they used this exceptionally long lead time for discovery, and I believe they actually pulled off a bit of a coup in this because they managed to do due diligence without us getting the 400-page questionnaire asking us, you know, all these wonderful questions that you do to us. And the other great thing that they could do with this very soft questioning is they'd talk to our competitor. So they're able, and talk to different parts of our businesses. So they're able actually to form a bigger picture than perhaps a document that we might give them about this tender. And from this, they actually achieved this due diligence. Now, truth be known, it was subtle, but I reckon at the end of it, they're probably like this, you know, ASIO, they probably had a dossier on us about this big. But it paid off for them, because they really knew who they wanted to deal with as they got through. Second part we're looking for, does it fit into our service model? Because, believe it or not, whilst we're a service organisation, we still have capacity issues. And we have almost like a manufacturing process. It's almost like a McDonald's. We know when we make the hamburger, we put the bun down, then the patty, then the pickle, it all works in that order. So if you come along to us and say, oh look, we want you to do this completely different, put it in the pickle and then try to assemble it a different way, this is when we all start to fail. So the first things that we all look for is, does it fit our service model? And certainly with Foster's it did. Because by coming out to us so early, to the entire industry, it gave us an opportunity for us to work with them and challenge both sides about what that model was going to look like, especially because it was a partial outsource. So it gave us a chance to influence their model, and particularly if we look at things like a new car delivery. Foster's wanted to retain the component of ordering the vehicle because they were funding it themselves. But our obligation was to get fuel cards and a kit into the vehicle and deliver it on time. So you can immediately see there's a gap. Whose fault is it if the vehicle doesn't get delivered with fuel cards? Is it our fault if we didn't get the data in time, or is it Foster's fault? So this gave us this opportunity with them to challenge these things and say, well, perhaps if we did this bit and you did that bit, it might be better. They also worked very close with the industry in examining KPIs across a broad range of suppliers, and to talk about those KPIs. What were they really looking for in that sausage machine? When did they actually want something to happen, rather than how they wanted us to do it? And I think they played us off a little bit together quite nicely as well, and managed us to get us to tighten up our KPIs before the tender. And the other great bit is it gave us an opportunity to look at alternative ways and for us to get used to the idea. So internally, our team was ready for it, their team was ready for it. Because as you can imagine, there was going to be some personnel movement within that group as soon as they extracted a number of the fleet activities out of it. So the third item we're looking at on our checklist, is it on our agenda? Well, clearly it was. We'd spent 12 months talking to these people. Of course it was on our agenda. You know, it's 100% fit with our business model, 100%. But was it really, or did we actually make it fit? And I think probably some days we probably made it fit. And we saw this as A-class business, not just because it was an iconic brand, but also because it fitted. It was the right size for us, we knew about the business, we knew it would work. So, what happens when the tender comes out? Absolutely no surprises. None whatsoever. And I've got to say, this is probably one of the few times I've found this. We have actually had these type of early contractor involvement type of situations. And we've actually found ourselves, when the tender comes out, it's completely different to the conversation we had. And we sort of think, well, hang on a minute, were we in the same meeting with them? But in this case, there were absolutely no surprises. It was 100% what we expected. 100% alignment of values and the service and the expectation for Foster's. So, what do you think we did with it? Because we were gagging for this piece of business after 12 months. I mean, we were worn out by then. Well, we went hard, didn't we? And I think the whole industry went hard. And the proof for the pudding, and the test for us was, is it winnable? Yes, it was. So we went hard. Proof of the pudding, Foster's got what they wanted. Lowest fees of 10% in the year. Now, you're probably asking yourselves, did Fleetcare win it or not? Well, of course we did. I wouldn't be telling you the story if we hadn't. But the lowest 10%. Now, you might look at this and say, well, hang on a minute. It should be low 10%. 1,800 vehicles. It's a reasonable sized fleet in Australia. It's up in that top bracket. It's an iconic brand. Of course you'd want that on your portfolio. You know, who have you got as a customer? Foster's. Hey, that goes well. Everybody drinks booze. Well, most of it. So, but that's not always the case. The fact is that because we saw it as low-cost business to do, we knew what the demand levels were, we knew the team already, and we knew what it was going to cost us to deliver it. We knew we could price this exactly. We didn't have to build fat in for the unknown risk, which is very unusual on a tender. Foster's achieved the objective of a partial outsource because we'd got through all the problems before it came to us. The transition was smooth, because the objectives were clear from the beginning. Everybody knew what they were going to do. And through the life of contract, there was just some minor tweaking that we did to get it to work nicely, but very minor. So all in all, it was a win-win situation. We were very happy with the business. It was priced right. We saw them as an A-class client. For Foster's, they got the right price. They achieved their primary goal of a successful partial outsource. So, it's a good story. But not all tenders are exactly great. We live with these documents that you send to us, and we get them and we have to read through them, and they cause us some challenges. So let's have a little look at what we hate about tenders. And there's not many things, honestly. Look, they can be very impersonal, especially if you haven't had any contact at the beginning. You can read the document and can really struggle to understand what they're trying to achieve within the document. You're trying to decipher phrases and words and text into what you're really trying to achieve. And one of the great challenges is it can be really easy for you to ask us the wrong questions. Because, we know, like for fleet and certain other commodities that you're going for, you're not tendering for this every month or every year, and it could be a 3 or 4 year cycle. So there's a number of questions, you can actually get the question completely wrong. And we just look at that sometimes and say, well, it's an operating lease tender. If you'd asked us this instead, perhaps we could have helped you. And if you've locked us down too much in the document, we can't find a spot to put it. So that can cause us a challenge. And sometimes you ask us questions that just bear no relevance, and that throws a bit of confusion into the pot. Other times, organisations have gone out to the market and you've looked at, say, 10 suppliers, and you've picked the eyes out of their products, all the really, really nice bits, and you've gone, this is great. If I had a product with these 10 great features, I'll have exactly what I want. So you send us a tender with the 10 best features out of 10 best suppliers. We get the document, what do? We go, well, that's not our product. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So I think there's a number of challenges there for you in what you're trying to achieve, and then when we get the document and trying to bring it back to maybe a little bit of reality. So certainly we've received a few tenders for products that almost don't exist. Can we build it? Yeah, sure, somebody will eventually, but you want to look at what that cost is as well. Tenders have been known to be used for a reconnaissance mission. Go out, get information for us. Some organisations, and none of you guys I know, might use it to justify the retention of an internal department, getting intellectual property from us. Certainly in a tender, if you ever ask us to give you flowcharts of our processes, we panic because we immediately see we're giving away something here that could be used in another area. So that causes us a few challenges as well. But people who do that, I know, they're not CIPSA members. They would be the other organisations. Certainly nobody in here would ever do that to us, we know. But at the end of it, there's some challenges in the tenders. So let's jump to that slide and have a look at my top 10 tender mistakes.